Week 6 of the NFL season is here, and already we are off to a hot start with the New York Giants upsetting the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. We will be reacting to that game today and giving you our predictions for the rest of the games this week. But before we do that, if you enjoy our content, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and let's roll. And much can be made of a 34-17 shellacking.
A lot can be made.
A bullying, a dismemberment of the offense in a way of the Philadelphia Eagles. And we'll get into the offense. I think a majority of the discussion about this video will be about the Eagles offense. But I just want to harp on their defense for a little bit. Without Quinyon Mitchell just erasing the opposing team's wide receiver one, and without Jalen Carter, this is a really bad unit. It's not just a mediocre unit. It's not just a hodgepodge unit. If they cannot generate a pass rush with their interior defensive line, if they cannot wipe out a number one wide receiver with a guy in man coverage, this unit kind of stinks. Vic was dialing up a ton of blitzes, and they just weren't getting home despite the weakness of the Giants' offensive line. Jaxson Dart's still a one-read, maybe a two-read quarterback who is slow to work through his progressions, but when his first guy's open because you blitz everyone and you're not getting home in 2 seconds, yeah, he's going to find that guy every time. It's not to diminish Dart, it's just there was no pressure, there was no real strong coverage, and if they cannot get their guys back on the field in short order, this unit is going to keep getting lit up. The offense is going to be the focus by a lot of people, but equally concerning to me was the Eagles' defense. I mean, obviously, they have 34 points to the Giants.
The cope on that side of the room is incredible. I don't want to hear these narratives that Jaxson Dart, one-read quarterback, can't process the defense, because that is exactly what he did last night. He was throwing lasers all over the field. When he was holding on to the ball too long, can't process. He was evading Eagles rushers. He was making defenders miss. He was scrambling, running the ball down the field. He was scrambling to throw the ball down the field. When he needed to make a pass, he hung in the pocket, threw the ball down the field. And the only receiver on this Giants unit that would start on other teams is Wan'Dale Robinson. So he was doing it with a supporting cast that is not all that great. And we can diminish the Eagles' defense. We can diminish the talent that they have. But I know what you think of the Giants' talent that they have on the offensive side of the ball. You don't think it's very good. So I don't want to hear this,
yes,
the Eagles' defense
are open
sucks.
Receivers.
It's
yes,
easy
they
for
were not
the
getting
Giants.
covered by air.
It's easy for Jaxson Dart to succeed. Jalen Carter, I don't want to hear it.
You don't want to hear the truth.
They still have talented players on that team. They still have Vic Fangio calling plays for that defense. I believe highest paid defensive coordinator, or certainly one of the highest paid defensive coordinators in the NFL. So downplaying the Jaxson Dart performance is just ridiculous.
That was either not a well-called game or a well-executed game by the Eagles defense. You cannot think, with everything you just reeled off about how terrible the Giants are, that 34 points is just a product of Dart playing well. That's a ridiculous thing to say, and you know.
Well, it also has a lot to do with what Cam Skattebo was doing on the ground, and the Giants' offensive line, which you think is so terrible.
You think it's terrible too!
Did a solid job last night. They were protecting for Jaxson Dart. They were getting it going in the ground game, and it is proven to be true that if Andrew Thomas is on the field for the Giants, the people were right. They're at least a middle-of-the-pack offensive line. This stuff that you say, Jaxson Dart, one-read quarterback, not true. Jaxson Dart, maybe he's the 15th best athlete in the NFL. Well, he certainly was making the Eagles defense look silly last night. So everything you said about Jaxson Dart, everything you said about, what he's going to do with Daboll, he proved you wrong last night, and you can't even admit it.
Wrong on Thursday. What are you talking about? I provided actual analysis of the game, and you just shout about how great Jaxson Dart is. He was not getting through a bunch of reads. He was not hanging in the pocket all that well. He didn't throw over 200 yards. You're the big counting stats guy, and suddenly, he had a massive day in the pocket. He couldn't crack an easy 200 burger.
Well,
look, I'm not saying he didn't play well. I'm saying the Eagles' defense played horribly, which allowed him to have the success he did. This is a product of what he was going up against being awful as opposed to him being great.
Well, there were plays he made that aren't showing up in the counting stats. We have the deep throw to Jalen Hyatt that was a perfect pass where he hung in there against the blitz, delivered a perfect pass interference, ball gets to the 1 yard line, and Cam Skattebo runs it in. There was another throw to LaJordan Humphrey at some point in the game where there was illegal contact.
I find it funny that last week we were talking about how Trevor Lawrence didn't do that much through the air, how he was an unimpressive box score quarterback, and you ignore the 10 pass interference penalties, which went against the Chiefs because they had to break up guys and tackle them. So we're playing an inconsistent game here. Do the things which don't show up count, or don't they?
you're the one playing an inconsistent game. If this was J.J. McCarthy on the Vikings beating the Eagles, playing the way that Jaxson Dart just did, succeeding with Wan'Dale Robinson, who you think wouldn't start on any teams, you would be losing your mind. So I
wouldn't.
Yes, you would.
If J.J. McCarthy's
the next coming of Christ, and you'd be...
I mean, J.J. McCarthy is the next coming of Christ, but that's an unrelated topic. But it's just clear and obvious what you're trying to do here. Look, I think Jaxson Dart played well. To say they didn't would be cope. But the thing you're getting away from the point is that the Eagles, an actual relevant team in the NFL, have real issues defensively, leaving aside what they've got going on offensively. Do you want to get into that now before we keep going on about Jaxson Dart?
Before we started recording, we can end the Giants here. You pointed out, oh, you had no faith in... Yeah, nobody had faith in the Giants. If you would have told Giants fans heading into the season that on Thursday Night Football in prime time, Jaxson Dart would be without Malik Nabers, Darius Slayton would not be on the field, and the Eagles had all of their offensive weapons healthy, that the Giants would beat them 34-7. No one would believe you, and you know that to be true. So, this...
If you told people going into the year that the Philadelphia Eagles could not run the football, would they believe you on that either?
No.
Exactly. Again, let's loop back into the Eagles offense real quick. A lot of discourse is going to be about Jalen Hurts. He deserves some heat. There were 2 throws, the interception and the missed shot to Devontae Smith, which are just horrible. I almost think he is working through his progressions too quick and not waiting for his routes to develop. He looked off a wide open A.J. Brown when, was that cover 0 they were in down the red zone?
It was a cover 0 blitz.
Yeah, cover 0. No one over the top. A.J. Brown clears day, wide open in the end zone. Just worked off it too quick to Jahan Dotson. We see how that went. And the throw to Smith, it just felt like even though he wasn't pressured, he had to get it out for some reason. There's no strong confidence. There's no poise in the pocket there from Hurts. And maybe you could get away with that in the past when they had a running game to lean on, but they just don't have that now. A few weeks ago, you said, maybe even last week, you said, the Eagles' O-line is not as badly banged up as the Chargers was. The interior is just gone, man. They've got backups and scrubs and people playing hurt in there. That interior of the offensive line is a wreck. Saquon looks physically diminished after his 500-touch season, and it's just all a mess. I don't know how much of that's coaching, how much of that is lining up in shotgun on first down. I'm sure some of it is. This Eagles offense, even with a better coach, might just not be that good right now.
Well, I think teams are saying, we're not going to let you beat us with Saquon Barkley. And Jalen Hurts, whether you think you can move the percentages how you want with the blame on Jalen Hurts, with the blame on the offensive coordinator. But to me, it seems like him, along with the receivers, maybe the entirety of the offense, doesn't have full confidence in the game plan. Like you alluded to, he's not letting the routes develop. The receivers, they're clearly frustrated on the sideline. And what is lack of cohesion, and it's not the same confidence and energy they were playing with last year when Saquon Barkley was running for 2,000 yards, and the receivers, they were on the same page with Jalen Hurts.
The pages A.J. Brown was on was that of a book, so let's not pretend here.
There's that, but it just seems to be that Jalen Hurts' deficiencies and why people criticize him, they're glaringly obvious, but I think the largest degree of the Eagles' lack of offensive success can be attributed to them just not trusting the offensive coordinator and the way these games are being game planned for. I mean, they've had one great half of football when they came back against the Rams. Outside of that, it's been very, very, very mediocre.
And even in that half, was Saquon really a big part of that? Am I misremembering, or was that mostly
just A.J. Brown?
Shots to A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. That wasn't even really a great half. It was just 2 or 3 great plays. Yeah, they got to get rid of Petula, man. And now's as good a time as any, but their bye week's coming up in a few weeks, so maybe you want to play another Giants game and run that one back, and maybe you want to play the Vikings and see how that goes against Flores and company. The Vikings defense is weak to really good running backs. Average running backs, they'll shut them down, but Bijan has his way with them. Derrick Henry will have his way with them eventually. Gibbs will have his way, and I am confident that if there's a bounce-back game in their immediate future, that's it for Saquon. So maybe you hold on to Petula for a little bit longer, but you've got to be thinking about how to off him, right?
You said in the past, I could coach the Eagles offense with the talent that they have. I hear what you're saying about the interior of their offensive line. It certainly makes it harder to succeed. But we've seen very talented and well-coached teams in the past overcome some of these injuries. I mean, The Giants, you know, they have their
very
problems.
talented and well-coached team, huh?
But they are certainly incredibly deficient relative to the talent that the Eagles have. It's not like the Giants have a spectacular interior offensive line, and they were getting it done. So it's a coaching failure, and I think we're both on the same page that Kevin Patullo.
I don't like getting guys axed within a month of them really getting their job, getting their feet under them. But the Eagles are in such a unique circumstance of clearly having one of the 4 or 5 best rosters in the NFL at bare minimum, and coming off a Super Bowl championship with the expectation that, okay, this is still the best team in the NFC, you kind of got to make immediate change. There has to be some immediate form of success. The issue is, who do you bring in? Who do you promote from within to replace Patullo? Do you let Sirianni call the plays again?
And you get Howie Roseman out there.
Get Howie Roseman to call the plays?
He's the greatest football mind of all time.
Yeah, that's the real twist. If I had Roseman because he's interim OC and they go and shellac someone by 30, we got to start some narratives, folks. Greatest football mind in history. Oh yeah, Cam Skattebo and Jaxson Dart, man. It's a little bit concerning to see how much time those guys spend in the medical tent. I mean, what do you think the Giants' concussion test is? Count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half.
Well, the funniest.
All right, good enough. Get out there.
The funniest moment of the night was Brian Daboll absolutely losing it with Jaxson Dart entering the medical tent and the Giants medical staff, because he knew that if Russell Wilson had to finish that game out for the Giants, his head would be rolling. He would not have made it through the week.
You know, that's another beauty of this game before we get into the predictions. How much job security do you think that gives Daboll? Because he might have gotten fired if the Giants got blown out last night. There's a real chance. Do we think he's probably make it through the end of the year unless they don't win another game?
It certainly gives him a leash up until, like, let's say week 13 or 14, but at this point they still only have 2 wins. I mean, they should have...
They only have 2 wins and a loss to the Saints.
Exactly. They should have, if not for the second half collapse and that fumble 6 doesn't happen, maybe they beat the Saints, could have beat the Cowboys in overtime, and then they're sitting with 4 wins right now. But that's not the case. They collapsed against the Cowboys in overtime, and they lost to the Saints. So they still need to stack some moral and actual victories in order for him to keep his job.
If we want to play the what about game, if Herbert doesn't melt down and Patullo pulls his thumb out of his ass, they could also still be sitting with 0 wins. But
both, there's few ifs going around.
One more time, shout out to MetLife Turf for taking out Quinyon Mitchell and Jalen Carter. It remains undefeated, folks.
We don't need to debate this, but I think
it's spiritually cursed ground. Forget the actual quality of the turf and yada, yada, yada.
I just think a degree of it has become narrative, because I think when you look at the actual numbers, it isn't that drastic compared to other fields, but I understand the sentiment.
Yeah, percentage-wise, it takes out more stars than other fields does. Average player, well, we can run the data at some point. Someone smarter than us can run the data at some point. Unfortunately, that smarter person will not be giving you their predictions this week. Starting things off with the Broncos visiting the Jets. I cannot imagine this Jets offense playing again on MetLife Turf 2 times in what, 4 or 5 days? That can't be good. I can't imagine this Jets offense scoring more than 15 points to this Broncos defense, and they can't cover anyone. They can't stop the run. Bo Nix, despite his many limitations, will have a similar game to that he had against the Bengals, and Denver rolls to a victory over New York here.
We both agree everyone probably agrees the Broncos are going to win. I think the biggest storyline about the Jets this season is that Robert Saleh was way more important to the success that organization was having than people were willing to give him credit for.
That defense was real bad his final year, too. They've
before he left, it wasn't quite as bad as it is now.
Pretty bad.
Right now, it's one of the 3 worst in the league.
It was pretty bad at the start of last
year. And with Aaron Glenn entering, we thought it'd be a little bit better. Not the case.
Aaron Glenn needs to start crying in interviews to get the Jets fired up. Rams visiting Baltimore, what should have been one of the better games of the season so far, is now just half of an injury bowl. The Ravens are limping into this one. As of now, Lamar Jackson is not expected to play, and without him in the lineup, good luck. They've got no shot against this Rams team. One of the better squads of the NFC is about to just go over to Baltimore and pound that pathetic offense.
I'm assuming Lamar Jackson's not playing because he's dealing with that hamstring injury. Even if he is, you talk about hampered Lamar Jackson against this Rams front 7. not going to go great. And then you have the Rams offense that has the second most total yards in the NFL going against the Ravens defense, which is absolutely pathetic. So if the Rams lose another brutal one, we're going to start having
discussions
about this Rams team, but they should win this one. It should be easy, but you never know with this team.
We've got to stop saying the Rams front seven. It's the Rams defensive line. Their linebackers aren't that good.
That's fair.
Their linebackers kind of stink. The secondary, different animal entirely. Worse than football, maybe, but I digress. Speaking of worse secondaries in football, Dallas Cowboys paying a visit to those plucky Carolina Panthers who just ran for 200 yards with Rico Dowdle against the Dolphins. I have not crunched the numbers. The Cowboys' run defense is better than Miami's. It's not much better. And I kind of think Rico Dowdle is going to be a big part of the game plan again. Chuba Hubbard should be back in the line, but I imagine his workload will be a little bit diminished. And since you just had a guy crack a 200 burger, maybe you want to feed the hot hand. Maybe get a little tandem action. Maybe Bryce Young drops back to pass 15 times at best. Granted, you want to pass a lot in this Cowboys secondary, but I'm feeling good about the Panthers in this. So I'm feeling a little optimistic for the hometown team. And I still don't like those Cowboys, man. So for that reason and that reason alone, I'll pick the Panthers to win this one. But this is not a not a special game.
Well, the Panthers, they're a mixed bag. 30-0 against the Falcons, get their doors blown off against the Patriots, and then they have that weird game against the Dolphins where the announcer making it an absolute party, if you want to call it that, as far as people watching the game goes. So you never know what you're going to get with this Panthers team. But unfortunately, Dak Prescott is playing on an MVP level. He's lighting up opposing defenses, and even with how bad the Cowboys' defense is, I just expect Dak Prescott to outplay Bryce Young.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if you remove that 30-point game, the Panther season makes a lot more sense. Aside from shellacking the Falcons, who don't seem to be that good either, losing to everyone except the Dolphins, kind of to be expected. Speaking of losing, the building's burning down in Arizona, and they gotta go play the red-hot Indianapolis Colts. The former Eagles offensive coordinator taking on the former Eagles defensive coordinator from 3 years ago. I gotta side with the Colts on this one. It shouldn't be that difficult to predict. Daniel Jones also playing at an MVP level. Offensive line really clicking. The run defense for Arizona has not been sufficient enough to stop Jonathan Taylor. I know they're good, but I don't think they can handle a real top-tier running back like him. Defensively, if you can't handle Jacoby Brissett, I know Xavier Howard's gone. I know your back end's pretty weak, but if you cannot handle Jacoby Brissett dropping back to pass 25, 30 times, we need to get this team out of any sort of contender or playoff conversations. I choose to have faith in the Colts defense, choose to have faith in Ward, the secondary. They'll be able to shut down Arizona. They're probably not inclined to run the ball a lot this week.
As much as I want to trash on the Colts because 3 of their 4 wins have come against absolute pumpkins. The Broncos win, that was a nice one. They have Jonathan Taylor, who's playing at an absurd level, and as you mentioned, things seem to be falling apart in Arizona. Running back room completely destroyed by injury. Kyler Murray has snaps hitting him in the face. Marvin Harrison Jr., he seems to be getting better, but he's still climbing out of that hole a little bit, so I just don't have a ton of faith in the Cardinals.
I mean, it wouldn't matter if the snaps are in Kyler in the face. I don't think he's playing this week. That's why I mentioned Kobe Brissett. That's the narrative I want to see manifest. Marvin Harrison Jr. hits him for a crisp 200, which Arvarius wore on him all day, with Jacoby throwing him the ball. That is the answer, by the way, on who's to blame, Marvin or Kyler. That'll be settled today. If Marvin stinks this game, maybe he's the issue. But if he has a fantastic game, or at least a good game with Jacoby throwing him the ball, we know. We know the little man's not the answer.
Seahawks are headed to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. And maybe if you're a Jaguars fan, maybe if you're a fan of Trevor Lawrence, you're going to convince yourself the Jaguars are a good football team because they just beat the Kansas City Chiefs. They had that late game-winning drive where Trevor Lawrence falls down, gets back up, scores the game-winning touchdown. But that's not going to happen against this Seahawks team. It is weird to say in the year of 2025 that Sam Darnold is a better quarterback than Trevor Lawrence, but it is just true. He is lighting things up with Jackson Smith-Njigba, throwing the ball down the field consistently. He looks even better than he was last year with Kevin O'Connell calling plays for him. And this Seahawks team is just a very good football team. I don't think the Jaguars have the firepower on the offensive side of the ball to win a gunfight against Sam Darnold and the Seahawks offense. We say it every week. Kenneth Walker, still healthy. They've been productive on the ground, so I think the Seahawks are going to win.
I mean, the issue is, I don't think the Seahawks defense right now, the amount of injuries they've got in their secondary on the defensive line, is as good as the Chiefs defense was last week. I think they've got some diminished players in Kansas City, but that's still an above average unit. And the Jaguars just scored 31 points on them. So I kind of think they can hang. I think this could be a back and forth game, kind of like what we saw with Tampa Bay last week.
They didn't score 31 points. They had a pick 6.
You're right about that, but still, hung in fairly well the Chiefs offense, scored in the matters. Brian Thomas getting things going with 80 yards on, 4 or 5 catches. You would like to see that ramp up as the season goes on. Travis Hunter finally involved in the game plan. I'll side with the Seahawks here, but I think this is going to be a higher scoring game than you're giving it credit for. They, in fact, do have a little bit of the firepower, particularly against a bad defense to keep up. Granted, the defensive coaching on Seattle is among the best in the NFL, so...
Well, I didn't say they wouldn't hang with them. I just said they wouldn't keep up and the Seahawks would win, to clarify my perspective.
Let's see who has more yards, JSN or Travis Hunter plus Brian Thomas. That's the interesting bet of the day. Finally, the narrative bowl from 2 years ago, Miami playing the Chargers.
Well, the narrative's over and settled.
Well, now hold on now. Hold on 1 second. Wait a second. I don't think we're quite done yet, folks. Yes, Tua Tagovailoa may have been badly concussed. His processing, his confidence may have been shot over the past 2 years. But if there's one team and one player he's going to get up and have a great performance against, it is the Los Angeles Chargers. Missing their 2 running backs, missing their 2 tackles, missing the belief that they can go out there and dominate anyone they play physically. Sure, Dolphins stink. They can't stop the run. Deshaun Atkins will probably have 3 rushing touchdowns on him in a game reminiscent of that of Ohio State, but that's not going to matter. I think Tua finally bounces back, finds Jalen Waddle in loving memory of Tyreek Hill over the top twice, 2 long ones, gets the tight ends involved, starts milking that, and the Dolphins offense lights things up. Now, will the Chargers offense also light up the Dolphins? Probably. Will it be a high-scoring game? Yes. But you know how I feel about Herbert in those settings, particularly when facing Tua. So I'll pick the Dolphins to pull off a spectacular upset and keep those good old-fashioned narratives alive for 1 more week.
Do we trust? Well, you made it clear who you trust.
I don't. No, I don't.
But do you really trust the Dolphins, who look completely uninspired all season long, against the hospital Chargers offense?
Looked really inspired in the first half of the Panthers game.
I trust the Jim Harbaugh-led offense, even if their stars are all in the hospital, more than I trust this Dolphins team. I think Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh, this is a game they find a way to win to keep themselves in serious AFC West playoff contention as they wait for Joe Alt to come back, who sounded like he had an outside shot this week, likely not, but either next week or the week following.
I would lean towards caution with the 320-pounders putting weight on their ankles. And this is just a pure hope game for me in terms of Tua pulling it off. Steelers-Browns, a bit more interesting than we thought it'd be. The Steelers, record-wise, are better than expected. Their offense really one-dimensional. Aaron Rodgers does not throw that ball downfield all too often. Most of their long plays come from a DK Metcalf run after catch. They're still handling the Browns. There's a quarterback who can hang in the pocket, diagnose a 4-man pass rush, and find a hole in the defense. It's Rodgers. He's old. He's got that veteran status. So his eyes maybe a little bit squinted because of the amount of pot and the amount of ayahuasca in his system, but he'll still find his people. He'll still get the ball out. Will it be a high-scoring game? No. Will the Browns offense do anything with Dylan Gabriel under center? No. Will we see Shadur Sanders? No. We'll see Bailey Zappi. But I can't think this.
Bailey Zappi.
I think the Steelers got this one home.
You know, after watching Dylan Gabriel succeed against your Brian Flores-led Vikings defense last week.
Succeed is a bit of a
2 passing
misnomer.
touchdowns. Quinshon Judkins averaging close to 5 yards a carry. I thought you'd have more faith in them.
Ask me the furthest ball downfield Dylan Gabriel completed.
It wasn't too far downfield.
5 yards. He did not complete a pass further than 5 yards downfield.
Aaron Rodgers isn't pushing the ball down the field that much either this season.
I got more faith in him than I do the little man.
I think this is a game where we have the Browns' defensive line with Myles Garrett playing at an absurdly high level, the Browns' defense playing at an extremely high level, that they're going to be able to shut down whatever Aaron Rodgers in that offense tries to do. And we'll see Quinshon Judkins fuel this Browns offense, and I think Dylan Gabriel will do enough to win a nice 21-14 game.
21-14. That's a little high scoring for my taste, but
maybe it'll be 14-10.
Speaking of offensive explosions, we have said nice things about the Patriots in the past week. Drake May revolutionizing their offensive defense, looking pretty good. This is a game, if you are a serious team who wants to compete for a playoff spot, you have to win. You've got to be able to beat the Saints. I don't care that it's at the Superdome. You're a more talented roster. You're a better coach team. You've got a better quarterback, which no slide on Spencer Rattler. He's been playing as well as he has at any point in his career, but it's just the truth. Drake May's better than them, so New England's got to take care of business. I expect they will. Patriots win. Vrabel doesn't lose these games.
I think they're going to win too. It feels like they're getting better every single week. I think the biggest storyline for either of these teams heading into this game is, will Travion Henderson finally get the ball? You picked him in the second round. Are you going to finally use him, or is Ramondre Stevenson just going to keep fumbling?
They just beat the Buffalo Bills, man. Do we really need to? Oh, they got to start getting Travion Henderson the ball.
They're clearly doing a lot of things well, but will they get their second round rookie involved in the offense? They haven't yet.
The storyline of the game is going to be, can the Patriots go to 4-2 in Vrabel's first year? It's not going to be Travion Henderson. Come now. Oh, look at this next one. You want to intro this?
Titans Raiders. The Titans find a way. It felt like they might have been touched by the hand of God last week in order to win that game against the Cardinals.
I think the devil's hand was just on the Cardinals.
That could be too, but against the Raiders, this Raiders team, offensive line pathetic. Geno Smith playing some truly vintage Geno Smith football. Ashton Genty not really able to save that franchise. Brock Bowers dealing with that knee injury. Clearly not rookie Brock Bowers. He needs to get that knee right if the Raiders offense has any hope of producing anything on the football field this season.
I'm going to go with so bad.
I think I actually lean Titans in this one. I think the interior of that defensive line will do enough to shut down the Raiders off.
Yeah, because Cam Ward's really moving the ball well against Max Crosby.
Yeah. There's no, what are you supposed to do with this game?
There's no way the Raiders, morally speaking, can bounce back psychologically from what the Colts did to them last week. What was it, 40-6? They're going to carry that momentum into this game and just get not shelled. They're going to lose. Titans are going to pick up their second win in 2 weeks. Cam Ward, a crispy 175 yards on 17 completions on 30 attempts, about 31. Slings it around a little bit. That's a game. That is a football game right there.
It's a game.
Two professional teams, 31-32 in the National Football League, maybe. Well, Jets, 30-31. Buccaneers hosting the 49ers, two teams who have valiantly battled through the injuries plaguing them all year. The question is, does Shanahan go ahead and keep the hot hand out there, the man who witnessed the dead body then lit up the Rams? Do you keep Mac Jones out there and roll him into Tampa and let him have a go? Make sure Purdy is 100% healthy? Do you really want to risk what happened last time Brock Purdy wasn't 100% in the Jaguars game and have him completely melt down and suddenly you've got a Mac Jones, Brock Purdy quarterback controversy going on? I think they just leave Mac out there, and even if it was Purdy, I don't think there'll be enough. The Buccaneers are just flying too high offensively. Emeka Egbuka, fantastic. Bucky Irving may be back, but even in his absence, Rachaad White played as well as we have seen him play, both in the run and the pass game. So I think they're able to do enough to put 35 up on the board and win this game. I don't know. It's hard to get a read on both these teams because every time I want to name drop a star player and say X player is this good and X player does this, that for him, I think about, oh, wait, they're injured. Fred Warner guarding Emeka Egbuka and Cade Otton in space. That is what I want to see. Can he force the fumble on the speedy receiver?
I mentioned Dak Prescott playing MVP level football. Baker Mayfield's playing MVP level football. He's been absurd this year. Emeka Egbuka looks like he could be the offensive rookie of the year. So this Buccaneers team is playing at an extremely high level. You mentioned Rachaad White. Even if Bucky Irving doesn't touch the field, it was some of the most juice I've seen Rachaad White have last week when he was, a big part of that Buccaneers offense. So the 49ers are extremely injured. You'd have to figure that is going to affect them eventually, even with how Kyle Shanahan's coaching. So I also think the Buccaneers are going to win.
The issue with that, you can say the exact same thing about the Buccaneers. You probably should just default to who do you think the better quarterback is or who do you think the healthier quarterback is. And the answer is clearly Baker this season. So roll the Bucs. And there's just something about Joe Flacco, which I can't put my finger on it, but he beat the Packers once this year. Why not again?
The Bengals, they're such a joke of an organization. We know that Jake Browning has been absolutely terrible this year. We know that they don't really have a chance of contending. So what do they do? Why did Joe Burrow get injured?
Well, because he takes a bunch of dumb sacks, but I don't think that's the answer you want me to say.
And is the offensive line bad?
One could argue.
So,
Really, I think it's a scheme issue. They just leave their tackles on islands. But
so your solution to your offensive line being horrible and Jake Browning, who's at least somewhat mobile,
no,
playing
but
pathetic.
no. You're not going to sneak that in there. You're not going to say that. That's a lie. Jake Browning is a stick.
Compared to 40-year-old Joe Flacco?
2 peas in a pod. Nice try. Nice try.
You are sending Joe Flacco to die behind this offensive line. I don't know if you're just trying to save Jake Browning from getting massacred by Micah Parsons, or if you're trying to punish Joe Flacco because of the season he had with the Browns when he won comeback.
That was 11 wins and comeback. The worst comeback player of the year award ever awarded.
You're jealous of the success he had there. He's not going to replicate that. Maybe you have this fantasy that he's going to air the ball out to Jamar Chase, get the ball to T. Higgins. He doesn't have any of that magic left. He's 40 years old, behind one of the worst offensive lines in football, and it feels like punishment at this point for the Bengals trading for Joe Flacco.
You can say the exact same thing about what he did in Cleveland when he played the Packers earlier. Worst O-line in football. The only difference is now he has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to throw to. The move to trade for Flacco is probably just to keep those two guys somewhat happy, and maybe you snag an extra 1-2 wins here, so when Joe Burrow comes back in December, there's no hope.
It's a lateral move from Drake Browning to Joe Flacco at this
Drake
point.
Browning was the worst quarterback in football this year. I don't think there's much arguing with me on that. Maybe you think Flacco is comparably bad, but he can't be as bad. It is a step up, even if it's only a baby step up. Having said that, the reason the Browns are able to pull out that win over the Packers is, one, because Jordan Love self-destructed as he is prone to do, but two, because they had one of the best defenses and probably the best defensive line in football. Not quite the case for your Cincinnati Bengals. Not a robust run defense, not a stout secondary, not a tremendous amount of mobility in the linebackers, not particularly well coached. They don't look to be in shape drive in and drive out. The slot play from the nickel cornerback, pretty terrible as well. So, yeah, I think the Packers are going to win this one. I just hate to say it.
Got in depth there for what's about to be a massacre.
They're going to be able to muster more than, the Packers are going to be able to muster more than 10 points like that against the Browns. Watch, we have now set this up 42 to 30. Yeah, 42 to 35 Bengals win. The things I will come on here and say about Micah Parsons if that happens.
The Lions look like they're the best team in the NFL. The Chiefs have been struggling, coming off a gut-wrenching loss to the Jaguars, and that is exactly what is going to motivate them to take it to the Detroit Lions. In the past, we've seen the Chiefs lose to the Lions in Week 1, where their offense doesn't look to be completely on point. But if there's one thing you can say about the Chiefs, is that over the last 2 weeks, their offense has gotten back on track. Xavier Worthy has injected life into this offense. Patrick Mahomes over the last 2 weeks is the Patrick Mahomes of old. He's playing the best football of his career. It's not like the first few weeks of the season where it was struggling a little bit. Things have changed over there in Kansas City. So I have faith in this Chiefs offense. Tyquan Thornton has proven to be a valuable asset to the receiver room. I mentioned Xavier Worthy already. Hollywood Brown has been very productive. I think the Chiefs are going to be able to get a win. It's not easy going into Arrowhead to beat this Chiefs team.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot easier recently. Do you know what the lion does to the small dog when he barks, Tristan?
He eats him.
No, it's a different thing. You clearly are not aware of the cultural reference I'm making. Come on now, we can be serious. We can admit the Chiefs gifted 11 points, still only able to score 28 against the Jaguars. We can admit the Lions got better by Terran Arnold going on the IR. They got some real players in their secondary now. We can admit that the best team in football is, in fact, going to beat a relatively mediocre team. The idea that Patrick Mahomes is playing the best football of his career, come on now. I know you think the numbers are going to be a little bit worse because he doesn't have Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. If you watch those games, you know something is missing from the early gunslinger days of Patrick Mahomes. The magic's gone. The scrambling's better. The pocket awareness is better, sure. But it's not the best football Patrick Mahomes' career. And it wouldn't matter if it was. This Detroit team is just better in too many areas. Aiden Hutchinson bounced back marvelously from that broken leg, better than I expected. On pace to have, I believe, 14 sacks, 15 sacks, something ridiculous like that for a guy who snapped his femur in half. The linebackers floating the ball. The safeties, best duo in the league. The offense, torturing everybody they play. If you're going to get lit up by Trevor Lawrence through the air and have to commit a gazillion pass interference and holding calls, imagine what's going to happen to Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nikola Tesla. Those cats roll through. Maybe even Jameson Williams is able to do something.
You say Nikola Tesla? Yes.
Yes, I'm aware his name's Isaac and Tesla, but
And Aiden Hutchinson broke his tibia, not his femur.
excuse me. Come on, we know it's going to happen. This is going to be yet another stomping out, yet another savage defeat. The Chiefs are going to fall to 2-4, and it's never been more over.
It's not over.
It's not over, man. They're still the Chiefs, man. Whatever. It's time for Travis Kelce to hang it up.
Side note on the Chiefs, it was, we had a certain there was a small amount of Chiefs fans saying Chris Jones was trying to let the Jaguars score. Just to have Chris Jones come out this week say that he should have been pursuing and he was not trying. That was quite funny. I did find that amusing.
There is an argument to be made that maybe you should let them score in that setting. Like, maybe that's what you should do. Maybe the other 10 guys in defense should have got that memo as well. Based on how they're trying to tackle Trevor, maybe they did. But hey, Bills taking on the Falcons. If this was the Falcons team of week 2 going into week 3, we'd be excited. We'd say, oh man, this is one of the best rushing attacks in the sport, squaring off with the Buffalo Bills. But we've seen the Falcons come back to earth. Michael Penix, among the worst quarterbacks in the league through the first 5 weeks. You expect him to get better, but this is not a great use of the 8th overall pick. You wonder if the Kirk Cousins alternative is going to be brought into play. Probably not. But despite the Bills' deficiencies in their secondary, the weakness of their defensive line outside of Nick Bosa and Ed Oliver, Matt Milano looking old as dirt, they're still a pretty well-coached unit. They'll still be where they need to be. The coverage is not going to be blown. Unless coverage is blown, Michael Penix cannot complete passes. Josh Allen's not having 2 mediocre games in a row. He's going to bounce back. He's going to fry this unit. And we'll move on with their days. I hate the concept of 2 Monday Night Football games. I hate the fact that one of them is invariably a stinker.
Well, with the Bills, do we really think Josh Allen's going to have 2 off games in a row? I don't think it's going to happen. Against this Falcons team, I agree. Basically everything he said. I think the Bills will win.
And now finally the rematch of the Chicago Bears' visit to Washington, which effectively ended the Bears season last year. And folks, it's happening again. The only difference, the Bears are not rolling into this game with a false sense of bravado and pomp. They are not beating up on the Chuck E. Cheese Jaguars and Panthers defenses like they did in 2024. They know they are. They know they are a team who struggles to get their young players, their star players, the ball. They know they're not that good. The 2-2 record, sure, fine, glitzy and glammy, whatever you like to call it. It's about to be 2-3. Washington moves the ball at will in this team. I don't care how injured their running backs are. I don't care how old Terry McLaurin is. I don't care how bad their offensive tackle
Terry McLaurin still might be out.
Yeah, again, I don't care how old he is. They could roll his corpse out on the field and play 10 on 11. It wouldn't matter. It really would. Jane Dale's magic. Running it around, scrambling, throwing. If Marcus Mariota has to go out there and play, still got more faith in him than I do Caleb Williams. Outside of the first 2 scripted drives and maybe the last drive of any given half, that offense will do nothing for Chicago. The Commanders are winning this game, and I don't think it's going to be close either. The only thing interesting about this game is the narrative.
I think the game's going to be pretty close. The Bears are coming off of 2 wins. They're coming off of bye, so they've had time to prepare for this Commanders team that is dealing with a few injuries. And the game, of course, is in Washington, so that will certainly help the Commanders in this one. But I would just have to think, with the coach that we all, or at least I believe Ben Johnson to be, he's going to have this offense ready, fresh off of wins and a bye week, to beat this Commanders team. The Commanders, Terry McLaurin, I think he's still not going to be on the field. Jaden Daniels, how much is that injury lingering, hampering his ability to just run all over the place? I think the Bears win a close one here.
Here's what's going to happen. Immediate 10-0, maybe 14-0 lead for the Bears. First 2 drives. Oh man, Caleb Williams, he's so good, he's so great. And then just futility. Futility offense for the Bears. You can watch Washington tiptoe their way back into the game. Caleb Williams will go down, score another touchdown late. Maybe they'll pick up a field goal along the way somewhere in there too. Make it a competitive game. Won't be enough. We will eternally be plagued with the highlight clips of Caleb Williams when the reality of the player is much, much more disappointing than that. But I digress. You think Shedeur Sanders plays this week?
No.
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, but there will be someone, posting.
I mean, the racist that Kevin Stefanski is.
No, the girl I sent you on Twitter that traveled all the way to London to fangirl over.
Oh, that was a girl?
That was an old woman. Fangirling over Shedeur Sanders on the side. The poise with which he stood on the sideline next to Joe Flacco.
The firmness in his grip of the tablet.
his headset, he clearly was engaged in the.
Look,
Get
man,
out.
I'm glad Shadir Sanders has dedicated fans. I wish we had dedicated fans like that.
Hey, maybe we get.
I want someone to fly to North Carolina and sit outside our window and watch the firmness in which he grips his tablet, the sheen of the light off his sunglasses. I want that for us. Maybe we're just jealous haters. It seems like
We probably are. Whopping, we had 2 comments on our last video. Go us. That has been our week. That has been our Week 6 predictions. My reaction to the Giants smoking the Eagles. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next one.